Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about a new decision saying the administration lacked the power to federalize the National Guard in Washington and basically to undertake its whole kind of operation that has resulted in boots on the ground throughout the nation's capital and has been such a eyesore and jarring sight. Okay. The big point here is this is under the DC code, which Congress passed with the intention of giving real governing authority to the district itself. So some of the efforts, it seems what the administration is trying to do, very similar to what they've tried to do in Illinois and Portland, and Los Angeles, but they have to contend with the DC code, and the court here, Judge Cobb from the DC District Court, says, you didn't do it and you don't have the authority. So let me just say, man, oh man, is the administration taking it on the chin kind of all week long, not just losing things, but having a series of statements by district courts that, we don't believe you anymore. So the wages of their overall squirreliness, I think, are really coming due. Okay, we don't have to get into the interstices of the DC code, but let me say that the basic notion here is they wanted to say, look, the president is the ultimate commander in chief, and I'm coming in. Why? Essentially to deter crimes. That's the main argument. And the court, Judge Cobb, considers that under the rubric of the DC code. And here's the key phrase that she construes. The commanding general, and that could be, in this situation, Trump, shall prescribe such stated drills and parades as he may deem necessary for the instruction of the National Guard, and may order out any portion of the National Guard for such drills, inspections, parades, escort, or other duties as he may deem proper. So this is total par for the course for the administration. They want to take these three words, or other duties, and twist them out of all recognition, or other duties, say, arresting everyone in DC or deterring crimes. And so Judge Cobb engages in a normal process of statutory interpretation, starting with the adage, a word is known by the company it keeps, and the company that other duties keep here is obviously a sort of ceremonial parades, escorts, and the like, and not the nitty-gritty law enforcement that Trump would want them to undertake. By the way, another big part of Judge Cobb's ruling that could have application elsewhere, she also says no authority at all, you just made it up, to bring in National Guard from other places. And recall, in Illinois, the Texas Attorney General, I said, we'll give you some of our National Guard. Same thing, I think, in Portland. And that is a whole sort of separate problem. And indeed it is under principles of different principles of state sovereignty. DC is, again, a little different. But the basic argument is they have no power to deter crime and to, if you really look and seriously interpret according to the canons of statutory construction and the like. The Supreme Court has repeatedly counseled that, quote, a general collective term at the end of a list of specific items is typically controlled and defined by reference to those specific items that precede it. And of course, it only makes sense when you read that Congress is not putting in the DC code some ability for the commanding general, who could be Trump, if in situations like this, if he has the authority to basically go in and crack heads and do law enforcement as part and parcel of the overall power to have parades and inspections. So that she makes I wouldn't say quick work of it. It's a long, thorough, methodical opinion and the administration follows up. Well, they zero escorts and inspections. That's a core police and law enforcement duty. So we can do these others. Whatever I construe that, it doesn't give you this general authority. And so it's very sort of firm. Now, what about the notion that protecting federal property under 10 U.S.C. 12406, as they've proffered elsewhere, and the judge says, look, at the very end, they have a one-page argument, does the administration, that under inherent authority of Article 2, they can do this kind of function. That's just too much of a kind of drive-by treatment to ground what they're looking to do here, as is a footnote in an OLC opinion. Basically, that one sentence doesn't give it, and then there are other more ragtag, what about Article 2, etc. We're in a special situation here, explains the court. It's not like the other cases because it's really a clear conflict between the executive branch and Congress, because Congress is the one who's passed the DC Code. Congress is the one who said that we want DC to be able to govern itself. By the way, the suit is brought, as is happening everywhere, by the DC governing authorities themselves. These are powers that have always been deployed because the states or local authorities are, please, we're in trouble. Can you come in and help us for a few days until the ship is righted? And instead, it's being used, repeatedly to essentially be an invading force over the objection of the local authorities. So they're the ones who have actually come in and said, no, you cannot do this. So again, we have a pretty long and thorough and methodical opinion by a judge in DC saying, none of these proffered measures make it or give you the authority to essentially just like take over crime control in the District of Columbia. You're taking a step back. I mean, that's about as core a sovereign function as exists. And if you just think about it in sort of political terms, and you probably know people in DC, I do, who have been, stunned, shocked, and appalled to be walking to, on the streets, and here are all these, booted, masked federal authorities. It's really, under the DC Code, a decision for DC to make how it wants to control law enforcement. That's the kind of main notion that underlies the analysis of the district court here. So it zeroes in on this point, and if it goes up on appeal, emergency, that's what will be the legal kind of focus. Does that Section 49, with its reference to and other things, give them this free roving authority? I think it's an argument that they have much the worse of, the administration. But the main point here is we have a special statute that says it's to DC to govern DC. And they've completely bulldozed that in bringing in the National Guard, among others, and not just from the district, to try to, as they're doing elsewhere, do law enforcement, especially on immigration. So there you have it. We'll see if it sticks, and what the administration tries to do. Maybe they'll roll the dice on a strong Trump panel at the DC circuit, but still, it doesn't look to me like that the statutory interpretation of Judge Cobb is very vulnerable. They'd have to maybe find another way, like the sort of throwaway argument, that what Judge Cobb called a throwaway argument. Maybe they revive that and focus on it. In the meantime, another real hit on not just on the law, but on the political agenda of the administration to just infiltrate, especially Democratic cities, and take over and clean up Dodge. And the court says, Dodge has to clean up Dodge. You guys are out of here. She gives it until December 11th so they can make an appeal to the DC circuit, and maybe the DC circuit in that time will put a stay on. We've seen this happen again and again. And that would undo the legal effect of her argument while they sort it out. But for now, the state of play is, after that, the federal authorities got to pull out of town. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.